that was positive, you were cared for, you wouldn't go to the internet necessarily just to buy it, right? Because you want to be engaged. You want to have that relationship with somebody. Okay, I did the same thing with Staples. My wife goes into Staples all the time. It's disheveled. The people there are rude. No one's helpful. And I looked it up and I said, you know, Staples is going to start losing market share as well. So I just looked up Staples. I think I looked up Staples sucks, actually. I don't know what I did, but something to that effect. And it came up last year they closed 200 stores. Being better people is important. And I'm going to basically set myself on fire today, okay? I'm going to get really raw, really quick, and I want all of you guys, hopefully, to stay as raw with me as we can go in this journey, okay? So I'm a strategist. I run a graphic design company, but I'm a thinker as well, and I'm an observer. And so what I've realized is, first slide, there's something that kind of happens in Nashville. And that is, and I hate to say this, but the aura of Nashville is a culture of obligation. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean by that there are often times in our lives that people have relationships with you in this town because there's some form of obligation to you. And as soon as that obligation goes away, often the relationship goes away. So whether that's a songwriter working with another songwriter, that's a business situation or whatever, that's somebody that knows they can get influenced or manipulate you in some way so that they can get something out of you, or sadly, that's even the person who you're in the same Bible study with. Okay? As soon as that goes away, often the relationship goes away. I was in a church, we were an incredibly popular family in a church. We had a party at my house with 270 people of what were considered my closest friends. We left the church, not one person of those 270 people called us for 6 months. It's a culture of obligation. I don't know how many of you have ever left Nashville after being here, but a lot of times when you leave, the conversations just kind of end a little bit. And you're the one that's calling. Now, how many of you in this room have heard this from anybody by a show of hands? When you call... Actually, yeah, okay. This is the question. When you call somebody on the phone, how many of you have heard one of these three things? Man, I was just thinking about you. Your ears must be burning. I was just talking about you to somebody else. Now, let's get honest. By show of hands, how many of you have said that to the person that called you? Okay?
I was just about to call you.
We have to be about, in those situations, when you have an opportunity to call someone, reach out. Okay? Don't ever be the one that, it bugs me when somebody says, man, your ears must be burning. Well, then call me. Okay? This is about being a better person. So we're going to look at this in 4 ways. Next slide. These are the 4 ways I believe to break this era. Now, everything that I'm saying here is in this book on business. Because this matters in business. Being this type of person will draw people to you. It will create an environment around you that people want to be part of. So we're going to talk about building people's power, never forgetting what I call the one, empathy, and using technology to inspire. So the first one we're going to talk about is power. All right, there are 2 ways to be recognized as the most powerful person in a room. One is to speak in such a high, lofty, commanding, authoritative way. Next slide. That everybody in the room sees your verbosity, tone, and arrogance and bows to you. You raise yourself up, it lowers everybody else down. Next slide. The other way to be is to build everybody up in a room with encouragement, challenge, wisdom, insight, in certain cases even conflict, but that they leave the room more powerful than they were when they walked in. And that's what I want for all of you. Now, I'm going to tell you my story. Back when I was 22 to about 30, I was this guy, okay? I was the type of guy that loved 2 things, first dates and big parties, because I could be anybody I wanted to be at either one of those events. There was nothing genuine about me. I just looked at whoever I was around and I said, okay, how do I maneuver this situation to get what I want out of it? Okay, then around 30, 32, things happen in my life, and I don't know if you know your Myers-Briggs, but I'm an ENFP. Which basically is extroverted, feeling, perceiving, and there's 2 types of ENFPs. There's the manipulator, which I used to be, and the inspirer, which is what I hope everybody in this room ascribes to. Okay? So we have to recognize that we have that capacity to build people up. Now, here's the greatest thing about this. The reward of this is that I constantly get people in my life telling me, what you told me 6 months ago, 8 months ago, 2 years ago, changed my life. I've never been the same since that conversation. I will take that over somebody building me up and thinking I'm cool any day of the week. Okay? Next slide. Next thing we're going to talk about, I'm going to go really quick because I want you guys to have a discussion, hopefully, about all of this. But the second thing is, I want you to never forget the one. Okay? How many of you in this business have more, or in this room have more than 10 employees? Okay. Fantastic. All right. Basically, the one, what happens is when we get to a level of influence where we're speaking in front of, let's say, 10 to 200 people, okay, there's this mentality that if I'm not speaking in front of that big of group, then it doesn't matter. So when I'm sitting down with you, you're not as important because it's not in front of the large group, okay? Or I don't have anything to offer anybody, so I don't really want to say anything to somebody because there's nothing for me to offer because I'm just kind of lower or whatever it is, and this person's so much greater. The one, next slide, is any person or persons in front of you at any moment. Doesn't matter if you're in front of 100 people or you're in front of one person. You give that person your time, your respect, and it will translate to better relationships, better customers, better opportunities, and really more sales. Because they're going to see and they're going to say, wow, this person values me. This person cares about me. This person's asking me questions about my life. We're going to talk about that a little more, and I'm going to get to empathy. Okay, next slide. Now we're going to talk, oh, there we go, we're going to talk about empathy. Now, empathy is an interesting concept, and we hear this a lot. We need empathy, we need empathy. And a lot of times we kind of correlate empathy with sympathy. Okay? Empathy is essentially caring about someone's story. Sympathy is creating a standard, then judging a person whether they match up to that standard, and then feeling sorry for them when they miss the standard. Okay, that's sympathy. But empathy is essentially caring for someone. Now, what's ironic about this is, especially in the South from this standpoint, people tend to say that religious people are the most unempathetic. Now, I'm a Christian, so I'm not trying to attack religious people here. But they say that they're unempathetic. They don't care for people. They judge people. Well, what's fascinating about that, we're going to look at a little scripture here for just a second. You've got basically the leader, Jesus himself, saying, how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye when there's a log in your own eye? First take out the log in your own eye, then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. Now, people use this a lot, and they say, hey, don't judge me. You got a log in your eye, and I've got a speck. Don't judge me for what I'm doing. And we use it kind of from the understanding of tolerance. What's fascinating about this, next slide. What's fascinating about this is, why did Jesus say a log? Okay? If you're talking about a speck, this is Israel. We're going to get historical for just a second. This is the land of sand. So why didn't he say speck and boulder, speck and rock? Okay? For some reason he said log. The reason why I believe this was done is because a log is organic. A log starts with something. And that something is a seed. And whatever that seed is in our lives, whatever that seed is in that person's life gets germinated and gets watered, probably daily, from whatever's happening in their lives. And then what you see in front of you in those moments is the log. Now we look at people, and do we look at the next slide? Next slide. It's not that we have a log in our eyes and they have a speck in theirs. It's that we all have logs. Everyone in this room has a log. The question is, what are you going to see in the people around you? Are you going to see the log, or are you going to see the seed? And you're going to have to care about people from that perspective. This is why, and I'm talking about this for a few reasons, but one is just this political climate that we find ourselves in. Because people are looking at logs all day long. And we're celebrating looking at logs right now. Okay? This is wrong. This is not going to bring people together. And this is the type of thing that as we talk this way, as we interact this way, as we engage this way, it's going to cause people to separate from us, and we're going to suffer. And we're going to suffer in our businesses. And I just want us to be better. That's why I said, just be better people. Okay? Business will follow you as a better person. Believe that 100%. Next slide. So which one are you going to see? Next slide. Empathy recognizes and celebrates or sometimes grieves a person's story. We all have stories. You know, I have a line of clothing right now, and I had a line of clothing before that called Live Intentionally. And one of my shirts from Live Intentionally was, everyone has a story, what's yours? Because I wanted people to wear that, and I wanted people to walk up to them and go, what do you mean? You really want to know my story? You really freaking care? And I wanted them to go, I do. That's why I bought this shirt. I want to know your story. I want to care about you. So we have to look beyond what we see in any given moment and recognize we all have stories and we all came from somewhere. I'm going to give a really raw one from this perspective. I was at a church, and there was a guy who showed up at the church in a summer dress. It was like one of these big days, you know, one of these like special services. This guy shows up in a summer dress, beard, summer dress, and everybody looks at him and goes, "Did you see the guy in the summer dress? Did you see the guy in the summer dress?" I'm sorry, but everybody was judging him for his love, or whatever that was in that situation. Well, it found out that this guy had been assaulted since the age of 2 by his father, and then by somebody else and somebody else and somebody else. I don't know who I'd be if I had been assaulted from the age of 2. Now, I'm not saying, don't get me wrong here, I'm not saying that that's why he became that way. But the reality is everybody has a story, and we all come from those situations, and whatever we are in that moment. We don't want people to judge us because we have a story, so let's not judge other people for theirs. Next slide. All right, this one's hard. Empathy requires us to relate, not just have a relationship. There are too many times in our lives where we have relationships with people, but we never relate with them. Could be the person on your kid's soccer team. Could be the person that you work in the children's ministry with at church. Could be the person sitting next to you in your cubicle. Okay, you have a relationship with them, but you're not relating to them. You don't know their story. How many of you in this room really? Let's see, how do I want to say this? How many of you in this room would say that you're not your closest friends, but the other people that you would consider friends, you really know their stories? Okay, awesome. That's great, and that's we need to celebrate that. Next slide. All right, last one. Going quick, and like I said, I want this to be a discussion. Hopefully we have time for it. But I want to talk to you about using technology to inspire. Now, a number of years ago, I actually wrote an article called Trapped in Cells and Pods. It was about 10 years ago. Because I thought it was really ironic that they were called cell phones and iPods. Because essentially, that's what it does. It creates a bubble around us in these moments. And so we don't engage and interact in the reality of the world. We just sit either listen to music, and it's not iPods anymore, obviously it's just your phone, period. Or we sit on our cell phones. How many in this room, just be honest with me, how many in this room have been in front of a cashier in any way, shape, or form, any cashier, food, grocery store, whatever, and been on your cell phone and not said hello or how do you do to the person that's serving you in that moment? Just be honest. Okay, awesome. My wife went into a store one day. She said to a lady, it was a grocery store. She said to a lady, "How are you?" She said, "Do you really want to know?" She said, "I do." The lady started breaking down crying. She said, "Not one person today is asking me how I am." Okay? And this is the place, like we're supposed to model. This is the buckle of the Bible Belt from that standpoint. Sorry to wax religious at all. But this is the place we're supposed to model this stuff. Right? That's who we're supposed to be. Okay? So the rest of the world is looking on, and that's what they should be impressed with. We should be the type of people that emulate something greater. And I believe, hopefully, that you all are going to be that at this moment. And I hope nobody in here gets on their phone again, because those are incredible opportunities. Now, the sad part about this is with the cell phone, we can engage in relationship 100% of the time and never be in relationship with the people that we don't know. Okay? Because I can do this. "Hey, Bob, how you doing?" Hey, yeah, you doing great? That's fantastic, man. Let's go do something. And 95 people are walking by me and other situations are happening, and I don't need them in my life. Because I've got that, it's feeding me in that moment. We're becoming better people. Next slide. Here we go. Let's hit it hard. Social media. Okay, social media. This is, I mean, we talk about this all the time. This is all over the news from that perspective. People say, why have we become a meaner culture? And the first thing people bring up is social media. Okay, there's truth to that, but the reality is we can use social media in powerful ways. And so I always say it this way. Facebook is a phenomenal connection tool, but if it's your form of communication, it's horrible. Okay? Because what you're doing is, next slide, you're liking posts, not people. Let's stop just liking images. Okay? Let's actually get on the phone with the people that we're talking to, because the more we actually do this, the more we just go like. My wife, I talk about my wife a lot because she's going through a lot of what I'm talking about here right now with her friendships. Because she's got two friends of hers that aren't even giving her the time of day anymore. She has no idea why. But they like her Instagram posts. And she's like, why are you even on here? What are you doing? So I kind of have a rule, and I hope you guys will involve this. If you get on and like 5 posts of somebody or 10 posts of somebody, call them. Send them an email. Do something in their lives. Don't just like a post. At the very least, comment in some way. Give them inspiration. Do something there that you have the capacity to encourage and bring out something in that moment. Next slide. So that's pretty much it. Build other people's power. Never forget the one. Have empathy instead of sympathy. And use technology to inspire. Is there any more? Or is that my last slide?
That's the last one.
Okay. So...